other champions in that division. You got Scott Quigg, Carl Frampton, Guillermo Rigondeaux.
I'm gonna get the opportunity, boy. You working your ass off, don't you?
Hey, that's what we do. That's what we do.
Ortiz Boxing Nation. I see it, baby. Y'all the man.
That's what it is.
I love what you're doing for boxing.
Thank you, man.
Don't stop. Keep on going strong. Keep on going hard. A lot of big fights coming this year. A lot of big fights.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So congratulations to Andre Berto. He avenges his loss to Victor Ortiz. He gets a 4th round knockout, and it was an action-packed fight. It was kind of like the first one, it just ended a lot earlier. Well, it wasn't as grueling as the first one either. So the good news for Andre Berto is he won the fight. The bad news for Andre Berto is I don't think he can ever regain that vintage Andre Berto, that undefeated Andre Berto. They used to throw beautiful combinations with the speed and the power. In this fight, Andre Berto, he got the job done. But I'm a little concerned with how he looked before he ended up getting Victor Ortiz up out of there. He was very, very reluctant. He was standing right in front of Victor Ortiz's left hand all night. You know, he wasn't really moving to the left. It looked like he was moving to the right and just standing right in front of Victor Ortiz's left hand, which is the exact reason why Andre Berto got knocked down in the first or the second round. But then he came back and he knocked down Victor Ortiz twice in the 4th round and closed the show. So overall, this was a really, really good win for Andre Berto, but I have concerns when I see him waiting so long and being so reluctant to let his hands go. I mean, that respect that he had for Victor Ortiz, it would have cost him against a better opponent. I truly believe that. So it's going to be very difficult for Andre Berto to go up against the top welterweights, but he got the job done tonight. And don't get me wrong, you can definitely attribute some of that reluctance to them already being in the ring, you know, before, and they had a war before. We've seen this before where, you know, fighters, they go to war in the first fight, and in the second fight, because of how the first fight played out, they usually become more cautious in a rematch, and it turns into a chess match. Not all the time, but a lot of times that's happened. So the bad news is Andre Berto, he didn't look like vintage Andre Berto, but the good news is he still has the unbelievable hand speed, and he still has tremendous power. Now I want to talk about this new world order called the PBC. Man, oh man. You know, this is when the racist fans, you may want to stop the video and close your ears, because I have some really bad news for the racist fans that hate Al Heyman and everyone else on the coincidental list. You're not going to want to hear this. I'm going to tell you guys something right now. What Al Heyman and the PBC series is doing right now in the sport of boxing, it is completely changing the game. This man, Al Heyman, he puts on so many cards that he has to put them on the same day on 2 different networks. You see, when Al Heyman puts a card together, the entire card is stacked with talent and competitive, very relevant, meaningful matches, right? When you look at Bob Arum, Bob has even said it, he's even admitted to this. He said, you know, who cares about the undercard? People don't watch fights to watch the undercard. They only care about the main event. This is what Bob Arum said out of his own mouth. And yet no one calls him the cancer of boxing, but they call, of course, the man on the coincidental list the cancer. Because, of course, the man on the coincidental list, he doesn't have his Hope insurance, right? But anyway, once again, only Al Heyman does this. Al Heyman will put on a card, and the very first fight, the second fight, the main event, all of those fights will be extremely meaningful. Undefeated fighters going against each other. Very, very relevant fights. Back to back to back. This is what we are getting with the PBC series. And he floods the networks with these fights. I mean, I told you guys, there have been weeks where it was a PBC fight card on almost every day of the week. It feels like you're watching the NFL or the NBA, you know, where you have a basketball game on ESPN, Spike TV, NBC, etc., etc., etc. This is a new world order, guys. PBC is the NFL of boxing. That's what it is. You guys remember when we had ESPN before, when it was just Friday Night Fights? Once again, the reason why Friday Night Fights TV ratings would be so low is because of the quality of the fights, obviously, right? I mean, if you look at the quality of the fights that ESPN had, and then you look at the quality of the fights that PBC has, now that PBC is basically on ESPN, now PBC is breaking records on ESPN. The last fight they had on ESPN, it was the biggest watch card in 17 years on ESPN. Okay? And let me tell you guys something else about the PBC movement, because that's what I'm gonna call it. It's the movement. Just like the new media, PBC is a movement. Me being a part of the media, when we go to all of these fights and we cover the fights, the atmosphere is unbelievable when you go to a PBC fight. Because, you know, when I go to, like, you know, you go to a top ranked card, you go to a Golden Boy, you know, like I just went to the Golovkin fight last week. Now, don't get me wrong, the crowds are great, right? Like, for example, Golovkin, great crowd, you know, electric atmosphere with the fans. But when you go to a PBC card, man, the arena is flooded with celebrities. I mean, you look to your right, you see Eddie Murphy. You look to your left, you see Danny Garcia. And the list just goes on and on and on. Amir Khan, James DeGale. There's just so many celebrities. You're seeing comedians, you're seeing musicians, you're seeing actors and UFC fighters. Everywhere you turn, it looks like a boxing award show every time you go to a PBC card. So, I mean, this movement is huge, guys. It's huge. I mean, you have top ranked fighters jumping ship and going from top rank to Al Heyman. You got fighters jumping from Golden Boy to Al Heyman. Al Heyman is employing the boxers. You guys see that? He has all these boxers actually calling the fights, right? So not only are these fighters getting paid when they get in the ring, but he's giving them jobs even when they're not fighting. I mean, I thought that was real cool when I seen heavyweight Travis Kaufman. You know, he's in the dressing room interviewing fighters, right? He's putting all these guys to work. He has different boxers calling fights almost every card. Why do you guys think Leo Santa Cruz named his son after Al? Right? So when you see the hate in the comment section, you know it is exactly just that. It is disdain and it is hate. And quite frankly, let's stop bullshitting. It's really just flat out called racism. And I will keep exposing it, no matter how many racist people I piss off. You know, the greatest thing about the internet is kind of like a confession booth. That's pretty much what it is. Because in the comment section, you can be as honest as you want and you remain anonymous. So you don't have to deal with the repercussions, right? You don't have to deal with the consequences of saying something that may bite you in the ass. Like Manny Pacquiao talking about gay people, or like celebrities like Mel Gibson, Hulk Hogan, and Dog the Bounty Hunter getting caught saying some racist shit, right? You don't have to deal with those repercussions when you're on the internet, because once again, why? You remain anonymous. So when you hear fans say stuff like, oh, well, it doesn't matter what people in the comment section say because they're just internet fans. No, that's not true. Because the people in the comment section, they represent the people, those writers, those big time blow-by-blow announcers. They're all saying the same thing. Only difference is the person on the comment section, he goes a little bit further because he can get away with it, right? You hear people say stuff like, oh, well, Jim Lampley, if he was racist, wouldn't he call black people the N-word, and wouldn't he be burning crosses as he was calling fights? Don't be so damn ignorant and naive. Of course, Jim Lampley is not going to say something that's going to get him fired, right? He doesn't want to end up like Rush Limbaugh, who used to be a football commentator and ended up saying some racist shit and got fired. That's what the internet is for. You can say all of that stuff and you don't have to worry about getting fired. You remain anonymous. Let me give you a perfect example. Once again, and this is what I mean when I say it's a confession booth. Because these decafs, they don't realize it, but they're so stupid and they're so filled with hate that they always prove every single thing that I tell you guys. I know exactly how a decaf thinks. I understand the psychology of a decaf, right? And they always prove me right with the comments. I'm telling you guys, man, I get thousands and thousands of racist ass comments. When a lot of time the video has nothing to do with race and they just send these comments. Why? Because they can't hold in the hate that they have for people on the coincidental list. Perfect example, and we get comments like this all the time, but shouts out to Boxing Ego. Boxing Ego, he forwarded me one of the messages that was sent to him. And I'm not going to read the whole message, but I'll just basically tell you how the guy started off. It's unbelievable, how ignorant these fans are because they completely tell on themselves. And they tell you what all of this is about. They always tell you. It's funny, they're always the one telling you, stop making this about race. And then they're the first ones that make this all about race. So this one guy, he sends Boxing Ego a comment, and he starts the sentence off basically saying, fuck this new media. This new media is just about trying to make black people relevant. I bullshit you not. This is exactly what the comment said. He said this new media movement is all about just trying to make black people relevant. So he just snitched on himself. In essence, what he was basically telling us is that he doesn't want black people to be relevant. And what's so crazy is if you listen to all of the decafs, and when I say decafs, I'm talking about from writers to boxing commentators, all the way from the grand wizard of the decafs, Jim Lampley, all the way down. If you listen to what they are saying, that's exactly what they are always telling you. They are always trying to make black fighters irrelevant, aren't they? What do they say about black fighters? If Guillermo Rigo is pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world, they say, oh, well, he's boring. He's boring. Nobody wants to watch him. Let's not talk about him. Let's try to make him as irrelevant as possible, right? Andre Ward, pound for pound, was the number 2 best fighter in the world behind Floyd Mayweather. Now, since Floyd Mayweather retired, oh, he's so boring. Oh, he's so inactive. Even though he just fought, they still calling him inactive. And once he starts to become active, then they lean more to calling him boring. They have to say something to try to make him as irrelevant as possible, right? Errol Spence is knocking out people, right? These decafs, they claim they don't like Andre Ward because he's boring. Then when you get Errol Spence and Deontay Wilder that's knocking fighters out, now all of a sudden, they're cheating or they're cherry picking or whatever, right? Trying to discredit these fighters and make them as irrelevant as possible. So it was just so ironic to me that this ignorant ass fan, he completely told on all of the decafs. He corroborated every single thing that you guys hear me teaching you when it comes to this channel, which is this has always been about race. Boxing is a racially divided sport. And the more we shine light on it, more uncomfortable the races become. If you don't want to hear about the truth, if you don't want to hear about what boxing is really about, then you need to not be watching this channel or listening. You could go ahead, unsubscribe, do whatever it is you want to do. But this message is only for the people who want to hear the truth and the whole truth. Okay? This is the reason why the decaf, they always want to shut you up when you speak the truth. Because they enjoy seeing the racial divide. They don't want to feel guilty. They don't want to have a guilty conscience, right? That's the reason why they want to shut you up, because they do not want to feel guilty. I keep telling you guys, man, love without truth is hypocrisy. And truth without love is brutality. The truth hurts. So when you see people disliking the truth, of course they're going to dislike the truth, because the truth hurts. And when someone hurts you, what do? You retaliate. But see, I don't care how much you cry and slap your damn knee. You're going to keep getting this work. Because you could sit over here and you could throw insults and all that kind of stuff, but you ain't going to disagree with nothing that I say. You ain't going to break down nothing that I said and say it didn't make sense. This is the reason why all they do is send insults. I'm talking about the decafs, that is. Because they know the shit is true. They just hate the fact that you're putting it out there. It's just like the movie Concussion. It's all true, but they don't want it to be put out there. That's all I got, guys. I'm on to the next one.
Hi, you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.